Welcome, welcome as people are joining us for this webinar. I hope you're comfortable. Take a glass of water or a cup of tea or coffee to join us for this conversation with our teams. We're waiting for people to join, so while we're waiting, feel free to put in the chat who you are, if you feel comfortable, and where you're calling us from. And I am Muriel Schmidt. I'm the Administrative Director for Christian Peacemaker Teams, and I'm joining you today from Washington, D.C. area, the traditional land of the Piscataway. We're going to give one more minute to let people join. Welcome to everyone who's joining. It's wonderful to see everyone's name and place joining us from many, many different horizons. Welcome, everyone. As everyone is entering this space and this circle, again, welcome. And I'm Muriel Schmidt. I'm the Administrative Director for Christian Peacemaker Teams, and I'm going to be facilitating this conversation today. Just a few housekeeping things that we need to make sure everyone is on the same page. We will not be able to see you or hear you. Only the panelists are on the Zoom and the camera. But we're going to make sure we have some time at the end of this conversation to take some questions. So if you do have questions, click on the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen and enter your questions. And at the end, when the all teams will have presented their work, we will go to the questions and take some of them for the last part of this webinar. So feel free to add your questions. We'll try to answer as many questions as we can, depending on the time we have. And then if we can't answer your questions, you can always email us and contact us, and we'll do our best to answer questions coming after the webinar. Everywhere where CPT is present, we have witnessed the devastation, the violence of land dispossession and land grab. And so in recognition of that, we also want to acknowledge that we are on stolen land, especially for the people who are calling us from colonies, Turtle Island, Australia, New Zealand, and the African continent, and many other places in the world that were colonized and where the land of the indigenous peoples was taken. We want to encourage you to recognize this land. If you know who are the original inhabitants of your land, feel free also to add that in the chat. And if you don't know that, we encourage you to research this history, and we recommend a website that is very well done and allow you to enter your location and find who were the first people on the land. And this link will be in the chat so that you can inquire and explore the history of your land. For those who don't know much about CPT or Christian Peacemaker Teams, we are an organization that trains everyday people to work in local peacemaking communities that are confronting situations of lethal conflict, partnering with them to transform violence and oppression. And so today, this is an opportunity for you to learn more about the specifics of this work and of our partners on the ground. And we have our coordinators, program support coordinators from our different programs who are going to share a little bit about their work on the ground and the team's work. As you know, we are celebrating our 35th anniversary this year, and so we wanted to start this year with the first webinar by looking back, taking action today, and expressing some hope for the future. So that's the questions that our project support coordinators are going to address from the perspective of their specific location. So the first question for them today is, can you briefly tell us about where your program is and the work that your team is involved in? And we're going to start with our team in Colombia. Carolina.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Glad to see so many people here. My name is Carolina Gouveia, and I'm calling from Turtle Island, the Treaty 1 territory and homeland of the Métis Nation, also known as Winnipeg, Canada. I'm the program support coordinator for the Colombia team, and I've been in this position for 1 year and a half. Before being the PSC, I was also part of the team on the field from 2016 to 2018. So CPT Colombia team is located in the city of Barranca Bermeja. And I'm gonna show you in the map where it's located. So I'm going to share my screen. You can see here that the capital is here, Bogota. And if you go up here, you're gonna see Barranca Bermeja. And it's by this river called Magdalena River. Just so you have an idea of the map. And this is Colombia in the South America map. So yeah, as I was saying, this is where the team has their office and where they also live and they spend their life while they're working for CPT. So Barranca Bermeja is a very hot city in the north of the capital, Bogota, right by, as I showed, the river Magdalena, the Magdalena River, which is one of the most important river in Colombia. And we work with the rural and rural communities and the region. The region around the river is called Magdalena Medio region. So what is the work of the team in Colombia? What kind of the work they're involved? So the team visits small farmers and mining communities. They're suffering for threats of violence and eviction from their lands. These threats come from armed groups funded by big corporations, and the team is also accompanying several human rights organizations who document and report human rights violations and provide support to communities who are affected by systematic violence. We visit or accompany these communities and social leaders to provide them physical protection. Our partners request our presence and invite us to be with them to inhibit acts of violence against them. These accompaniments also give us an opportunity to get to know our partners as we share our lives and time together. We have cup of coffee with them, and we spend time together with them and their families. And we also do political accompaniment when we share their stories and struggles to our own community and to our network. And we also pressure the government to take actions to protect our partners. So this is a very short description of what the Colombia team is involved right now. And this is the work. And I'm going to invite Rochelle from Thyssen to share a little bit about her program.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Carolina. I am Rochelle Friesen. I am the Canada coordinator as well as the coordinator for the Turtle Island Solidarity Network. I'm calling in from Toronto, Ontario, which is the homeland of the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the Wendat peoples. So the Turtle Island Solidarity Network, it mobilizes reservists, so CPTers across Turtle Island, also known as North America, to take part in indigenous solidarity. We currently do not have a full-time team doing indigenous solidarity. However, this network allows us to sort of be everywhere doing this work and erase that colonial border, right? Because that border was created by settler colonial states to try and control land and dispossess people. So our hope is by doing this work across Turtle Island, we're actually taking part in that decolonization process. Similar to other programs, we do things like accompaniment. So a year ago, while this feels like 10 years ago due to the pandemic, it was just a year ago that we were able to send 2 CPTers to be in solidarity with the Wet'suwet'en people up in northern British Columbia. And so a pipeline was planning to be built through Wet'suwet'en territory without the consent or permission from the Wet'suwet'en hereditary chiefs. And so the Wet'suwet'en took to their land to stand on their land, and they experienced several raids by the RCMP. And CPT was there to be legal observers, to document, to be in solidarity. And 2 of our CPTers were actually arrested alongside 2 land defenders. At that same time, we also visited Tyendinaga, which was doing a blockade in solidarity of Wet'suwet'en. And this past fall, we did virtual accompaniment, which was a new thing for us in solidarity of the Mi'kmaq lobster fishers. And so there, we stayed in frequent contact with lobster fishers there on the ground, documenting the violence that they were receiving, the complicity of both the Department of Fisheries and the Royal Canadian Mounted Police in this violence. And we asked them what sort of actions we should be doing here, as well as doing documentation. Key to this work, we also do solidarity actions, so supporting local movements, whether we are in Philly, New York, Winnipeg, Vancouver. If there's an Indigenous solidarity action, we work really hard to get involved and to provide our support. And also doing settler education. Most reservists are settlers, and so we are trying to educate our settler community and bring them into this movement and into this work. Currently, we are standing in solidarity with Land Back Lane, still doing lots of really wonderful work there and learning from land defenders, as well as exploring solidarity with Oak Flat in Arizona, so with the San Carlos Apache peoples and what's happening at Line 3. So it's a very, very quick and brief overview, and I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Rumbir.
Thank you, Rachel. So my name is Rumbir Sarkapkani. I am the project support coordinator for the AMS, Aegean Migrant Solidarity program. Aegean Migrant Solidarity is located in Lesbos, which is a Greek island in the northern Aegean region in between Greece and Turkey. We have been existing on the island since 2014. We were invited by a local network of activists who had organized themselves in order to support and show solidarity with migrants who, when they arrived on the island, were simply put in confinement facilities. So we were invited to the island in 2014, and we were asked to monitor trials against people who are accused of smuggling, like human smuggling, simply because of the Coast Guard, the Greek Coast Guard, saw them driving the boat. So they could be poor people from Turkey, or migrants who didn't afford the journey on these dinghy boats. So this has been an accompaniment that we have been doing since 2014 until now, and we just released one of our biggest report when it comes to this. Besides that, we worked in operational stuff and like doing mediation and using our lingual skills and other skills in the operation of Pikpa camp, which was unfortunately evicted a couple of months ago by the Greek government. It was a camp, like a refugee camp for vulnerable people, which was started by Village of All Together, the network that actually invited us. Sorry for not saying the name of the network. And we have also been accompanying protests and actions made by migrants or people who are in solidarity with migration. So unlike other teams who mainly are partners with people who live in a certain area, and this partnership continues for a longer period of time, AMS partners with people who are on the move. So of course we partner with islanders, with people from different parts of the world who come to the island in order to show solidarity with the migrants. But it's a very transient situation, like where people come and want to leave. They don't want to stay there, they want to leave. And this has very much formed and forged the way we work, and applying CPT's way of working, like, and doing oppressions and other experiences that CPT has been gathering from other places to a situation which is very transient. It's been a unique experience for CPT, and also like for Aegean Migrant Solidarity to do this. Right now, we are active in different locally initiated assemblies in solidarity with migrants, and also we also participate in the record that in the monitoring of the racist violence against migrants and solidarity people on the island, while we also try to organize with other people on the island who are in solidarity with migrants, like in order to have common and shared advocacy. Like AMS has also been involved in like different skill building activities, like alternative to violence project. We did a few workshops, and we aim to do some more workshops in the future in order to bring different migrant groups together, and also like local communities with migrant communities together. So yeah, this is a small part of what we do as AMS. I'm gonna hand it over to Mona.
Thank you, and hello everyone. My name is Mona. I'm the program support coordinator for Palestine team. I work, the team is located in Al Khalil, Hebron, the south of the West Bank. It's been, the team been there since 1995. Our work is focused on first accompaniment, then documenting, third reporting and networking. In terms of accompaniment, we have different type of accompaniments or seasonal accompaniment. So we do school accompaniment, which means that we walk with the kids or make sure that they go safely to schools, and we monitor on that sense, we monitor 4 checkpoints. 2 checkpoints go to schools, and the other 2 checkpoints is the way to a kindergarten. Other type of accompaniment we do is, as I said, seasonal accompaniment, such as example, olive harvest. Other accompaniment we do is upon request, and it's connected to emergencies such as like demolition. So if demolition happen or there's demolition orders, people would call us to be with them. And the emergencies where people call us just to be with them and make sure we document everything. We do documentation, and that means we take, beside the photos, we take the testimonies and the stories from people themselves and make sure we get the stories and their own voices in the way they want us to. And then we do, of course, reporting. Reporting to our CPT network, but then CPT Palestine is also part of a bigger network which contains UN organizations and other human rights organizations, and depend on the specialty of those organizations, we report to them. Other projects that we work on at the moment, we work with a group of children on a project called Through Their Lens, and we're trying to work with the children how to document their lives and their stories and to write their own narratives away from any pressure, whether from adults, and when I say adults, it means also Palestinian adults, or away from any other organizational pressure. So they write their own stories and introduce childhood to the world through their lens, their photos and writings. So that's what we do as Palestine team. And I invite everyone also to check out our website and the rest of our work. I would invite Lucas. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mona. My name is Lucas. I come from Silesia, from Eastern Europe. I have been with the Iraqi Kurdistan team for the past 10 years. Right now, I'm calling from Bogota, Colombia, which is the traditional land of the Muisca people. I would like to share with you a little bit about the work in Iraqi Kurdistan of CPT. This map shows civilians that have been killed or injured in the Turkish military operations in the Kurdistan region of Iraq. These are data collected by CPT in Kurdistan since 2015. Those circles and dots show people that were killed or injured, but they don't show the 500 villages that are empty now because of those bombings that have been going on for several decades. The Turkish bombings target homes of people. They target cars that the families are using to go to their fields. They kill youth, women, children, adults that happen to be in this area. Or like Dunya, Rashidu was just collecting wild herbs with her family and friends in the mountain. The CPT has been documenting those attacks since 2007 and have been building relationship and partnerships with the families and communities that are bombed. So many of those communities or places that you've seen on the first map, CPT has visited and has built partnerships or relationship with those families. We accompany people who are impacted by those bombings to speak with the government. We organize press conferences and try to engage media and other organizations from around the world to take action for peace and for support of the families. We also build this network of families that come together and work together in the campaign that they named Hear Us Now, Stop the Bombing. Other part of our work is to accompany civil society activists in Iraqi Kurdistan. As you can imagine, like everywhere, there are so many initiatives and people who stand up against oppression, who challenge the nepotism of the authorities, and who ask also for their salaries, like this group of teachers that you can see who haven't been paid for 5 months. Our latest campaign that you can also join, and I will ask my colleague Nima to share the link with you, is called Free Body Non-Prisoners. You can put a signature as well and ask for the release of those journalists and civil society activists who have been arrested about 4 months ago and for a long time they haven't been able to see their lawyers or their family members. Thank you so much. I would like to invite Muriel again.
Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing this, responding to this first question about the program and your main activities on the ground. The second question is, looking back, how long has your program existed? So some of you already mentioned that, but maybe you can remind us of that. And what has changed over time, or what have you learned over that time? And we're going to start this time with Muna for the program in Palestine. Muna.
Thank you. So as I said, Palestine team started their work back in 1995. And since then, a lot of things changed. Talking about the political also context in Palestine that changed through the years. So also the type of the work changed. Of course, we learned a lot of things changed. One of the things that I would like to mention is how much it's like great to see Palestine team and CPT is allowing more locals to be on Palestine team, and how much this is strengthening the team more and more. That one thing. And the thing that over the years, the team learned is the power of people's story and how it's important to make sure those stories are told and said in the same way, and to make sure that we listen to the people and their needs. And yeah, this is one of the main things that what we learned and what changed. I would like to call Rambir.
So as I mentioned before, we came to the island of Lesbos 2014, and to be honest, we like, it's very difficult to predict the next day in the very transient and violent situation on the border between EU and the rest of the world, where Lesbos is located. So according, like for instance, in 2015, when I went to the island, there was this big migration which happened, and it shocked all of us who were there at that time without predicting any such thing. And the direct response was to, of course, monitor the situation, try to like mediate between protesting migrants and authorities, and other things. But we also, like, we were handing out water to people who were thirsty, like along with other people, other, like, the few solidarity people who actually existed there. But since that time, like in 2016, we came back, the borders were closed, like there was like all these like dynamics which happened in 2015, like which traumatized all of us, didn't exist. So we entered like a phase of kind of like finding ourselves again, like what are we gonna do here on this island when masses of migrants are not coming. So then on this path we realized that, like, what's helping is to have a permanent presence on the island, and also like to focus on slow, effective mobilization against with other solidarity groups on the island in solidarity with migrants, and also like committing to the act of remembering, because like so many things are happening so fast that people forget, like all these traumatic things which are happening. So like we have, because of our like long-term stay there, we have been able to stay witness in trials against migrants, or like doing other things, like which means remembering actually like what happened at that date, because we go to protests, we go to different spots where things are happening or where people are not actually giving attention to. So yeah, like it means but like in the last few years we have been mainly focusing on like monitoring trials, and also assisting migrants who want to organize themselves, uh, because like like they because like there is no transfer of experience between migrants. Like there is like many migrants, they just leave, so they don't transfer the experiences of resistance to like the new people who come. So then it's important to actually keep up this communication and also tell people who come there about struggles who existed before. I'm going to hand it over to my colleague Lukasz.
Thank you, Ranbir. What the Iraqi Kurdistan team learned is about the impacts of the cross-border bombings by Turkey and Iran on the families that live in the area. We didn't know anything about it when we went to Kurdistan in 2006. Our team started working in Baghdad during the US and coalition invasion, and trying to support the families that were really suffering under the occupation. But then when we moved to Kurdistan, it was a very new war that none of us knew about that was happening. And when we started building relationships with the communities and families that lost their loved ones and lost their homes and their livelihoods and their animals that feed them, and their extended families, we realized how Turkey is, and in collaboration with the US and other countries, is just wiping out one way of life that has existed for hundreds of years. And we also learned how we can work together and how we can be part of this struggle against this huge giant of Turkey, and how important is solidarity, how important is that people know, how important is that people take action. One of our partners told us, said, "You are like the bridge between us and the world. Without you, we would feel alone, just here in these high mountains, surrounded by the bombs. But you help us connect with the rest of the world." And we also learned how treacherous are the European countries, that even though sometimes they will criticize Turkey for invading Syria and displacing hundreds of thousands of people, when it comes to Iraqi Kurdistan, when also they do it and they invade, they build military bases, that just because Turkey is threatening, from their perspective, Europe, by opening a door for thousands of people who left because of these wars that Turkey created, and because of those wars that European countries created and fueled by weapons and by and other ways, that they don't mind, that they will just keep silent because they care about themselves, those countries in Europe and powers. So yeah, we learned how important it is to change that narrative, to change and be the bridge for all of us. Thank you. I would like to invite Rochelle.
Thank you, Lukasz. So I had to do a bit of research for this one because, from my understanding, when CPT started 35 years ago, those that were involved in its formation talked about how important indigenous solidarity would be on Turtle Island. So solidarity visits began in the mid-90s, and then in 1997, the CPT Toronto office opened, and its focus was on indigenous solidarity. The first accompaniment happened in 1999 at Caldwell First Nation, where settlers had attacked the indigenous community there. The things that we have learned is, and when I read the history of what CPT has been doing and also the history of this land, the colonial violence on Turtle Island is constant. It never lets up. It's ongoing and it reinvents itself. And we see this violence, it's not always in the flashpoints like raids, it's through the court system. It's through really slow legislation. I think about our partners in Grassy Narrows, who for decades, the provincial and federal governments in Canada denied that the residents of Gracineros were experiencing mercury poisoning. And then when they did finally admit that they were poisoned, that there was poisoning, how long it took for provincial and federal governments to promise funding, and how long it's taken for that funding to actually be implemented. And through all of this, and I mean, I also think about how 20 years ago we stood in solidarity with the Mi'kmaq lobster fishers in Espinovidich, Burnt Church, New Brunswick. Our partner from 20 years ago is the person that contacted me to say, hey, we need accompaniment now, just this past fall. 20 years ago, CPTers were out at Six Nations, accompanying the Haudenosaunee as they reclaimed their land. Currently today, we're doing the same work of listening to the land defenders. Constant relationship building, whether there's a flashpoint or not, is so important. Those cups of coffee, delivering meals to protest sites, phone calls, conversations. I think about our newsletter from this fall, where we wrote about the ordinary work of accompaniment in Thyssen, which is so important for doing this work. And also something that we've really learned is the importance of settler education. Educating other settlers to get involved in this work, doing anti-racism workshops, being committed to undoing oppressions, and making sure that we are bringing people on board to take part in this decolonial work. So that's a little bit of what we have learned over the decades. There's lots of people I know participating in this webinar that know actually way more about this history than I do. So thank you for teaching me about that history. I really appreciate that knowledge. And I'm going to pass it over to Carolina.
Thanks, Rochelle. So to talk a little bit of Colombia team in the program is, so the program started in 2001. Which means that this year it's going to be our 20th anniversary. So in February, we're going to celebrate. And so please stay tuned to, so you don't miss our celebrations. So yeah, CPT arrived 20 years ago in Colombia during a terrible time in the region of the Magdalena Medio. And it's really important to know that the Magdalena Medio region is rich in natural resources such gold and oil and water and land. So big companies just want to take over. And so the paramilitary would work for these big companies, and they would invade towns and cities, and they would displace everyone or kill people who were trying to resist. So it was a very hard time for the city of Barranca Bermeja as well. So that's when the Mennonite Church in Colombia invited CPT to come to Colombia and to come to the region and do accompaniment to human rights organizations and farm associations who are still resisting. So these organizations still exist to this day, and many others were created from this traumatic experience. And it was in order to support the victims and to seek justice from whatever happened. And unfortunately, this organizations still have a lot of work because of the amount of threats and assassinations of social leaders until this day. Just so you know, in 2020, it was a record of killing of social leaders, and many of our partners suffer threats, and of course, with COVID and with the context of the past year, it's been much harder to support our partners. But already answering one of the questions, we're trying to do. If you want to know what we're trying to do to support the social leaders, you can go to our website, or we can go to our social media pages, and you can see a little bit of what we're doing. So we're having these videos where they're telling their stories. It's called Modus Operandis. So another thing that it's important to tell, it's that in the past 20 years, we have been having locals or people from Colombia part of as CPTers, and it's been amazing. And it's also take us to out of that idea that solidarity accompaniment can only be done by foreigners, and especially people from the global north. And one more thing that is really helpful for our team is being the technology and being able to be in touch with our partners, even though many of them still don't have access to internet, but also to share our work with the world. So those are the things that we've seen, noticed as a change. Yeah, thank you, Muriel.
Thank you again, everyone, for sharing a little bit of the history and the learnings of each program. Looking forward, we're going to now ask you to reflect on what do you see, how do you see your program's work changing in the future, and or what are your hopes for the future as you're doing this work with our partners. And we're going to start with Rumbir. So Rumbir.
So, inshallah, we won't be needed. Borders will be opened, and the resources of the world will be shared evenly between all the populations. But it doesn't seem to be possible in the next few years. So I think we will be needed. And what we have realized that like through talking to our to people in Moria village, which is located to the burned down concentration camp of Moria, is that like when Moria concentration camp was built, no one asked them, like no one told them, okay, we are gonna build a prison for thousands of people. It's gonna be made for 2,500 people, but there will be occasions when 25,000 people are gonna be put there in inhuman, indignified conditions. So now the Greek government, after Moria was burned down, they have just put migrants in somewhere close to the shore, 6 kilometers from Mytilene, and they are building another camp like far from Mytilene. And we are thinking about connecting to those communities, and they are already protesting against this and against the construction of a new concentration camp in their nearby village. So we want to connect to those communities and eventually try to actually create a bridge between migrant communities and those communities which exist in that area where the government is trying to finalize a concentration camp by September this year. So that's gonna be one of the focuses of the team. Meanwhile, we are gonna continue monitoring trials against people who have been accused as a part of the Greek government's criminalization policy of activists and migrants. And we are gonna continue monitoring the racist violence against migrants and solidarity people. We are gonna continue accompanying LGBTQ people. We will, inshallah, be able to resume our AVP workshops after the lockdown and after the vaccination is finished. So this is what we are planning to do. We also want to take our focus on remembering by creating a visual memory platform online where people can send their videos, and after anonymization we will publish them, and also some other things so that we will have another a way to remember what's actually going on and create a sense of continuity. So this is our future, but inshallah it's not going to be needed.
We're going to go to Muna.
Thank you. The hopes, yes, I echo Rumbir that inshallah there will be no need for at least accompaniment and everybody would be free. But my hopes, let's get realistic with my hopes, at least for the coming year. My hope is that we all unite and work and be in solidarity with each other, as all this work and with different groups is rooted in the same thing, and it's all connected to oppression. So hopefully we work towards more unity and collective working toward building equal environment for all. And the other thing I hope for all of us, to make sure that we listen to the voices of the oppressed, and make sure we listen to them and hear their stories while they are ready to share before they get actually even with their stories. And we listen, and to make sure that we actually spread their stories the way they want us to do that. Inshallah. Inshallah, no need for all that. And now I would like to call Carolina.
Thanks. Yeah, inshallah. It's a very hard question to answer. And I try to focus on the reason we work, and the reason we work is because we care, and because our partners care. But caring can be really painful sometimes. It hurts. But my hope is that we continue caring for each other and for the planet. And I also hope that more people care. More people. We need more people caring for the work and for what's going on with our partners. And my hope is that our partners can have their lands. My hope is that our partners can go to work, or they go with their lives. They can sleep at night, not hoping that they might die, or that their kids might be kidnapped. And so that's my hope. And I hope I can visit my friends in Barranca Bermeja and have coffee and chat on our hammocks and just enjoy the hot weather of Barranca, complaining about how hot it is. That's my hope. And yeah, check. And I'm going to ask Rochelle. It's her hope.
Okay, well, our partners and us, we are getting ready to mobilize and to organize. The last major pandemic that hit Turtle Island was in 1918. A year into that pandemic saw major social change and movements taking to the street for labor justice. Started really centered in Winnipeg after the 1919 strike. The thing is, while politicians give us the myth that we are all in this together, the pandemic is impacting communities differently, and social inequality and racism has never been so overt and visible. People are angry, people are organizing, and people are mobilizing. And I also think about how when the pandemic started in March, we had in Turtle Island, we had just sort of had this huge outburst of support in solidarity with Wet'suwet'en. From Oak Flat in Arizona, indigenous folks are demanding that their sacred land be respected. From Line 3 in Minnesota, you have water protectors making sure that Enbridge, a Canadian company, doesn't destroy their land. At Lamback Lane, folks are saying this isn't about negotiation. This is indigenous land, and we demand that our land come back. From Wet'suwet'en, you still have the struggle going on there, and across Turtle Island. And so I am nervous for this coming year of everything that could happen. I'm also excited because I think this could be a very, very profound year for us to work together at decolonization. So we want to continue at TISN, a Turtle Island Solidarity Network, to stand in solidarity with our indigenous partners. In addition, we want to keep focusing on defunding the police and bringing more attention to the importance of prison abolition, because settler colonialism settler colonialism has upheld these institutions to create its goals. My hope is to come 2021, later in the year, we can actually all get together again and do workshops and learn together and work actively together at the process of decolonization. Ultimately, I want to be put out of a job because Turtle Island has been decolonized. But until that comes, I'm excited that we're all going to keep working together at this process. And hopefully someday we can have a full-time team back in Winnipeg to work alongside the network. And in order for that to happen, we need more donations. And so we need people like you supporting CPT. And I will call on Lukasz.
Thank you, Rochelle. Just last week, Turkish Minister of Defense went to Iraq and to Kurdistan, met with both governments and threatened them that if they don't allow Turkey to conduct new military actions, that they will diminish even more the water that is coming to Iraqi Kurdistan through Euphrates and Tigris rivers. They already have the dams built there, which they can block the water as much as they want. And also threatened them that with issues of oil, that a lot of it from Kurdistan flows actually through Turkey to the rest of the world. So maybe this will be a way that can engage more people, that now it's struggle not only of the rural communities that people don't know so much about, but maybe it's because it's becoming an issue of water and of all Iraq and of a huge amount of agriculture that feeds a lot of people in Iraq. So we really hope that more and more people and the governments really get engaged and say no to Turkey. You cannot do that anymore. You cannot go and bomb people in other countries. So we hope that this happens. We also hope that and want to encourage the Kurdistan regional government to be actually grateful for the civil society, not to feel threatened by them, not to put them in jail, but to be grateful that they are and that they actually can bring new voices that are so needed. And hopefully we can all meet together in a delegation one day when the pandemic is not a threat anymore, and that we can work together towards the world of communities that together embrace the diversity of the human family. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for sharing and hoping for our partners, our communities, the communities of our company. We have been over 100 people during this whole time, and it's wonderful to have everyone here and to feel the support for the work that we're doing. Couldn't happen without you. You're holding us in the light, you're holding our back and supporting, from close or far, supporting the work that we're doing and supporting our partners, and it really, really matters. So if you want to know more about the work of each team, we put in the chat the website, the media, with Facebook, Instagram, all those pages. Each team is working really, really hard to get information out and the word of our partners out. So please connect with us online. Sign up for your newsletter, sign up for our Friday bulletin now. That's a great, great resource to know what's happening each week on the ground and get the latest from all our teams. There were several questions in the Q&A box. And a lot of them have to do with the pandemic, of course, and how it's affecting our work on the ground because we cannot do accompaniment exactly the same way we have done, and the access to vaccination and how the communities we work with are going to be affected by the distribution or not. But I would like to maybe turn this question to maybe a last learning before we conclude, but what have you learned during the pandemic? Because we talk a lot about what it has prevented us from doing, but we also, I think, have done a lot of learning throughout the year with the pandemic. And so what is the biggest learning that the pandemic has brought to you and your team? And I will ask Rochelle first.
I was hoping to think a little longer. The work doesn't stop. The pandemic has made visible how oppressive our world is, how oppressive the settler colonial governments are, and our work does not stop. We just have to find creative ways of keeping it going. So we did virtual accompaniment of the Mi'kmaq alongside the Mi'kmaq lobster fishers, relying more on phone, Skype, and just having to be creative, but also being able to do things on an online platform. CPT, like being able to do workshops and trainings and reach even more people this way has been great. But the oppression has never been more visible, and we all know that as police try and enforce stay-at-home orders across Turtle Island, they are targeting BIPOC communities the strongest, as well as indigenous communities. I've heard of indigenous folks close to Lamback getting pulled over for violating stay-at-home orders, even though they're driving by themselves near their homes. The oppression continues. The pandemic has made it more visible. It has also given more power to authorities to commit more violence against folks we are standing in solidarity with. But that violence continues, but so do we in our quest for peace and justice.
Thanks, Rochelle. Lucas, do you want to add something to that?
Yeah, we had similar experiences as Rochelle is saying, and we've seen how even the violence went up by Turkey, by new bases, military bases. So the oppression is jumped up during the corona, and people have been impacted by the corona itself, plus by the violence even more. So we need organizations like CPT and similar organizations, and your engagement of people who are here on this webinar as well, because the work for justice and peace is even more important than ever. Check.
Carolina, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think Rochelle nailed it. Things that like the oppression is just way more visible now, but we can see that one thing that is happening a lot is violence against women. And we just need to find creative ways to report that and to support the organizations there we partner with. And that's why it's so important. Our work is so important at this moment. That's why it's so important for people like folks like you here watching us to support us. So yeah, we're very thankful because things had changed, but with your support, we can continue doing the work that we're doing.
Muna, do you have something to add? Learning during the pandemic?
Yes. First, being one thing I learned, and all of us as a team learned, that being Palestinian and under occupation prepared us to have a pandemic more than others, because curfews been all over through the years. So kind of we were ready for it. It taught us that oppression, as much as the Israeli occupation is oppressive, COVID gave them another chance or bigger platform to do more violations, such as demolitions, and the absence of mainly international organizations on the ground also gave them that opportunity to do more. And the last thing is being part of the Palestinian community among other oppressed people. I know that we even did not get the vaccine yet, And I don't think we will get it anytime soon. And that part of capitalism and classism we live in this world. But also I learned that Palestine team always work through the hardest circumstances, and CPT always have our back as a team and as local team.
Thank you. And Rumbir, the last word.
So during the pandemic, we saw the oppressions worsening. Like we saw how the Greek government is actually, EU and Greek government are using the pandemic. For instance, they have always wanted to have migrants in a total confinement so that they couldn't even go out and in from the concentration camp. So they used the lockdown as an excuse to actually close Moria, and then at last, as a result, migrants actually burned down Moria. Like, okay, it was, there are different theories who burned down Moria, but like the rest of the population was free, they could go wherever they wanted, but Moria was locked in for months and months and months. And like 15,000 people in a very small place on a hill, and then in the in the new camp where they put people, like there is like lead poisoning in the soil, so people are dying. Like more migrants have died because of violence, because of other things rather than like COVID. I think one migrant from Lesbos have died because of COVID, and pushbacks, like they push back migrants. They pick up like migrant boats on the Greek side of the water, and then they just put them in life rafts and smuggle them back to Turkey. So like state-sponsored human smuggling is going on during the pandemic. So like all this is like just happening in front of everyone's eyes. Like UN is protesting against it. Like they just started protesting against it now, but EU has still not like taken an official stance against this, which is very, very obvious. Even the Greek government have actually admitted that they are doing it. As AMS, we have continued working, and of course we will continue working. Like we respect all the local restrictions and everything, but since there is like we are on the island, like people who work with AMS are also residents of the island. Like what we learned is also like having local field team members is crucial, because they can always, like whenever lockdown can ease, they can actually come and start working again. So like this has been very helpful for us.
Thank you again. We have reached the hour, so we're going to wrap up here. But of course, you can email us, you can visit our website, you can email the teams, stay in touch, inquire, dialogue, ask questions. We're here to respond. We're here to amplify the voices of our partners, and it really, really matters. So please stay in touch and continue your support one way or another. It really matters to us to know that we have a larger community around us supporting us and giving us the strength and the confidence to move forward in this context. Stay tuned. It's the 35th year for CPT, 35 year of action, and we're going to continue our work, and we're going to continue to share our work this year. Webinars are coming, call for actions are coming from each team on our cptaction.org website. So just, stay tuned and keep walking with us and journey with us. It's wonderful to have you here. And we wish you all a wonderful end of your day, be it night or morning or afternoon. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you so much.